Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my 2 informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling my crafting a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about Kinobody. As in, I guess, Kinobody, Gregor Gallagher, not Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because the Force is not strong with this one, unfortunately. Now, you guys know I did a couple videos, and Greg came in, had a lot to say, and he said some comments, and I think it's going to be hilarious when you really compare and contrast this, when you look at who he stole and plagiarized all his information from, because I saw a free copy of his superhero book, and it is like 80% plagiarized directly from Martin Berkhan's Lean Gain site. But here's what he had to say, and it's interesting that he's got all that in there, and he wants to talk about how wide my hips are and how I look like a fat chick, and it's like, bro, you say stuff like that, right? And then you wonder, and all you guys wonder who are involved in the physique world, why so many guys who train for strength and athletics think you guys are all closet cases. Stuff like this is why. Actually sitting around telling other dudes they look like fat chicks, assessing other men's hips. Like, if you're a dude and you pretend you're straight and you're all about chasing pussy and you're talking about other dudes' hips and assessing their hips, I'm just saying, don't pretend like you aren't batting for the other team. I mean, I understand, guys, this is 2018. That's cool and everything. But, you'd feel better if you guys just came out of the closet. You'd feel a lot better about yourself. It'd be a big weight lifted off your chest. But obsessing about other men's physiques and obsessing over your own tiny waist while claiming that you're into chicks and obsessing over the bodies of other men, you guys see where I'm going with that. It's a little bit weird. And there's a reason guys who train for strength actually make fun of all you guys. That's the reason for it. It's very, very clearly some suppressed tendencies going on. But, the interesting thing there is that he makes this statements, and I'm going to compare and contrast myself and Martin Berkhan in a second. He'll be like, oh, you've got what? Well, that's bone structure, bro. What people fail to understand, this might be a far-fetched idea for some people, but people get drawn into certain types of different performance and athletic endeavors based upon their genetics and structure. Meaning, people who have certain types of builds and body types and different genes are actually better suited for some sports and physical endeavors than others. I know, it sounds like a shock, right? Something no one's ever heard of before, right? Some people are just better at some things than others. A lot of that's structure, a lot of that's muscle insertions. I, being Slavic and Eastern European, I have stumpy legs, and I have wide pelvis, okay? In other words, not what you want for bodybuilding. I'm not exactly built to be a fitness model. A lot of football players in my family. There's power lifters in my family, shot putters in my family. Why? We're built for it. It's the reason I was able to get to almost a 500-pound squat when I was younger, before I had ever seen a drug, and before I even knew that there was a high bar and a low bar squat. I actually had no clue. I had no clue. I just went in and squatted. My cousin who played football, now is an NFL coach, taught me how to squat, and I just started squatting. I was built for the exercise. Same reason I'm going to build back up over a 500-pound squat again now, and my squat's going up stupid fast. I'm just built for that. It's not that the powerlifting gave me a wider pelvis structure and shorter legs. That's my genetics. That's what I was born with. Fitness models generally don't have that sort of structure, but football players do, power lifters do. In other words, it makes you be built to squat. But people see guys who are strong squatters, and a lot of them have that sort of structure, and they make this weird mistake that, aha, the squatting created that structure rather than that structure created the squat. It's genetics, guys. It's genetics. It's genetics. In fact, I had that same structure when I was a distance runner. All right, guys, I ran marathons before I got into weightlifting. I was doing marathon running. I was distance running. I had that same structure, weighing well under 200 pounds, doing 5 to 10 mile runs all the time, multiple times a week. I used to run 5 miles every morning. I still had that structure. If you were going to use that logic, you would say, oh man, running gives you a wide pelvis. I mean, if you were to use that logic. That's not how it works, guys. Now, interestingly enough, Kinobody says all this, but he stole all of his programming and training and diet from who? From Martin Berkhan. Now, Martin isn't exactly happy about this. I actually talked to Martin about this not that long ago, just to kind of fill out how he felt about this, because Martin and I have had our differences and we've had our agreements. You know, I mean, Martin has complimented certain things I've said, and he's been critical of certain things I've said. I would always say Martin's kind of neutral regarding me, and I've always been neutral regarding Martin. I don't like everything he does, but I think he's been overall a positive influence. All right, I think he's been a positive influence on the community, very much so in the last decade. And I think he's made substantial contributions that have a lot of merit, and you can't take that away from him. None of us can. But the thing is, he's really pissed off at Greg because Greg stole his stuff. And I said, well, he watered it down. He said, no, he didn't water it down. He desecrated it. He took the squats and the deadlifts out because his people are lazy. That's basically how Martin felt, is that people who follow Kinobody are lazy. Martin is big on work ethic. In case you guys haven't noticed, the guy's kind of a little bit on work ethic. He thinks they're lazy. Thinks anyone who doesn't squat and deadlift is lazy. I happen to agree. But the thing is, you know, he wants to make those statements, but then you look at Martin. Martin, being Swedish, is tall with narrow hips. That's his genetic structure. Anyone seen what he deadlifts? Anyone seen what he squats? You guys know he deadlifts over 600 pounds for reps, right? Okay. He deadlifts over 600 pounds for reps, yet he still has the superhero physique that Kinobody tries to sell. Kinobody has no legs. No legs at all upper body. And the thing is, it's like, yeah, he stole Martin's intermittent fasting protocol. He's trying to use his similar training programming and doing, you know, the drop sets, the rest pause training, all the stuff that Martin promotes, because Martin is all about getting people minimum effective training volume and getting them out of the gym quick, because he has people fast all the time. It's hard to build muscle when you're fasting. Your recovery abilities get compromised. And the only way a person recomps successfully using intermittent fasting is they have to mitigate their training volume. They have to make the most efficient use of every minute in the gym. If they don't, they will stagnate. Martin put together a successful system for that, and it works. It actually works. I'm not wild about it because of the fasting component, but when I step back and say, well, if you factor in that it's written for people who are doing intermittent fasting, it actually works and it actually makes sense. And it is. It's very, very hard work, and it is focused on strength. He believes in using several big, heavy compound movements and getting as strong as you possibly can on them to build muscle. And doing so in a manner that maximizes your efficiency in the gym to get you out of the gym quicker, because you're not going to be bulking, you're not going to be overeating. It's going to be hard to gain muscle if you spend too much time in the gym. And he's right. So it's about stimulate, don't annihilate, and get out of the gym and recover and grow. Conserve your energy because you're going to need it, because you're not overeating. And it works. It makes sense. But the problem is that you got guys like Kinobody who took the squats and deadlifts out and then makes these silly excuses. Oh, it makes you not look like a superhero. Because, yeah, you go look at any comic book character or superhero, they all have massive thighs. They all have massive thighs. Every single person you look at in a comic book, you think that guy could squat 600, 700, 800 pounds when you look at him. Okay, that is a superhero physique. But the thing is, he's all about laziness, and he's all about showboating and showing off, because he doesn't do full range of motion reps. Everything's touch and go, everything's bouncing, everything's partials. I mean, he's tried to say, oh man, I'm this strong the other person. You don't even touch your chest. You don't come to a stop. He comes down to here and comes back up. Doesn't even get within 3 inches of his chest. It's a partial exercise. And no, it's not about protecting your shoulders. It's about being lazy so that you can lift more weight than you're capable of lifting. All right, a true overhead press, you come down and you stop on your chest and you press it up. Okay, that's a strict press. From a dead stop on your chest. And yes, it doesn't hurt your shoulder. It's perfectly safe to do if you know how to perform the exercise. But, you know, it lets him lift 20 more pounds, 30 more pounds. Doesn't mean you're stronger just because you're able to cheat more weight up by trimming range of motion out. It's like guys saying I'm stronger on the bench press who do a super arch and only move the, the bar, the ultra wide grip, and the massive arch that gets criticized in powerlifting. The same thing, guys. You're doing less work to move the same weight. That's not stimulating more muscle fibers. Doing more work stimulates more muscle fibers. But he comes in with this, and then he wants to avoid squats and deadlifts and pretend like pistol squats actually build better legs for this. No, they don't. They don't. It's called being lazy. It's called not actually wanting to do work. It's called what Martin Berkhan called it, F-arounditis. He wrote a whole article on that. The stuff that he has swapped out, he took the hardest exercises out and put fluff in. That's what he changed. He took Martin's very effective system, bastardized it, watered it down, and then slaps a $50 price tag on it. Now here's the difference, guys. I mean, people will stand there fine. You don't want to look like me, I get it. I'm not genetically blessed with the best aesthetics. But let's be honest here. If you're going to compare, if you really want to say, well, this aesthetic look, if that's what you're obsessed with, why in the world would anyone run Kenobi's watered down, weak version of it when he's smaller, weaker, less aesthetic, everything else than Martin, and he's basically made a version of Martin's program for lazy people, and then charges $50 for it? Why wouldn't you just go run Martin's stuff instead? It clearly works better. If we're going to use anecdote and use people's physiques as the example, well, he looks like this, so it must be his programming. Who's winning here, Martin or Kenobi? Martin is bigger, he's leaner, better proportions, and he's a hell of a lot stronger. Deadlifts over 600 pounds for reps. Who has more of the superhero physique and superhero performance to go with it? Clearly he does. And he's not slapping a $50 price tag on it. So as far as I'm concerned, Kenobi is a lazy, spoiled brat. Lazy, spoiled brat. Rich kid, spoiled brat. Who basically just ripped off Martin, took his effective program and made it lazier, took the hardest work out. It's going to leave you basically being a weak pussy who's only upper body, and then is charging money for it. And then people wonder why Martin gets a little miffed about it. I think he's got a good reason to. But at the end of the day, look, if that's what you're chasing, you guys want to do the intermittent fasting thing, you want to look like a superhero, who's got better results? Martin. Martin's system works better, and he doesn't charge $50 for it. And there you go. Martin is proof that heavy squats and deadlifts don't make your waist wide. They don't make your hips wide. Your genetics make your hips wide. It's called bone structure. You can't change that. And if you already have narrow hips, like most Swedish dudes, like Martin, a 600, 700 pound deadlift is not going to add 3 inches to your waist. The hip muscles are not capable of hypertrophying that much. They're not. You're blessed with the structure that you're born with, and you can't change that. And people want to pretend like genetics aren't the biggest deal in this whole game. Guys, for as far as aesthetics go, genetics are everything. I'm not saying a person can't improve upon them. Anyone can improve upon them if they work at it. But you have the hand you are dealt. And this idea that doing squats and deadlifts is going to make your hips wider beyond what your structure is already there is absurd. It's insane. It's bro science, and it's justifying laziness. It's justifying laziness. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.